All right, good afternoon, class. So last week and part of this week, we've been dealing with the idea of solving equations, and we created this system to make it easier to solve equations sort of in the virtual world. And if you haven't wrote down these letters here and the sentences that are associated with them, you should do so right now as I'm reading them, okay? Type them into your notes, write them on paper, write them into your spiral notes, whatever you need to do. So we talk about the letter A, and if you use the letter A when you're solving equations and filling in the blanks, it would mean apply an inverse operation. So if there's addition, you subtract. If there's a negative, you would combine a positive, something like that. In a sense, you're applying inverse operation. Inverse operations are generally used to go ahead and clear a term from one side of the equation to the other side. And we'll see that in a moment. So the letter B, if you were using this one, the sentence would be connected to the letter B would be combining like terms. And we talked about combining like terms. That's something where they have either it's numbers or integers that you say you can combine. So negative 5/10 minus 3/4 or something. So we can combine those. Another thing is when you're talking about variables. And variables can be combined if they have the same base. So 2x and 3x, the base is the same x. And if they have the same power. And notice 3x, 2x, the power is the invisible uno, which we really don't talk much about, but that's the reason why. So same powers and same base. Let's go to letter C. So letter C is where you'd be applying distributive property. And we talked about distributive property using the smart cut, so you don't really believe it's addition or subtraction necessarily when you have variables and you have integers involved, and how to distribute distribute out the value that's on the outside of the brackets to all the values inside of them, or the terms inside. And letter D, find a multiple of the denominators and use that multiple to turn off fraction numbers into whole numbers. We haven't done a lot of that. We're going to see some of that today on the examples I'll be giving with the video. The next one here is letter E, where it says to divide the remaining variable coefficient by itself. Inverse operation, or what we like to call FB, baby. So that one you're going to see this letter quite a bit, all right? And then last but not least, letter F. Sometimes we just don't want to mess with fractions, and we convert the fraction numbers into decimal numbers. And then, of course, after we do that, if this thing can go down, we would then apply distributive property. Well, you can't see it because it just went up, but apply distributive property. So those things are really important ideas for you to understand here, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and go to the next slide. Oh, can I do that? Let's see. All right. And so let's give an example of how we use these letters here, all right? Also, you should have this written down as well, where it says first, I would, then I would, colon, so on like that. So let me give you a moment to go ahead and write these down, because these sentences will be important as well, okay? So you want to screenshot these and write them down on a piece of paper. If you want to type them in or how you want to do that, go ahead. So let me write down the sentences I have here. Number one, first I would, and colon, and whatever it would be. Next sentence, then I would, colon, whatever that would be there. After that, I would, colon, let me put the letter. Next, I would, colon. And notice how this is blank. So for every challenge that you do, you may not use all these sentences. You may only use one or two and then be here, or sometimes use three and skip these. So notice what I'm doing here. I'm using the sentences that I need. Then when I finally get to the FB part, I skip this sentence because I don't need it. There's nothing else to do. Also skip this one. Then I just get right down to where it says, and finally, I would. And last but not least, if I can get this thing to disappear, and you'd write your answer down here, okay? So let's look at an example of what I did here. So I had 6x minus 2 times the quantity of x minus 5. Okay, I thought you said it was in subtraction, Mr. E. We can still say minus, even though we understand that this is really negative. Okay, so let me get my tools out here.